Welcome to Eye on America. I'm Michelle Miller. Today we visit cities across the nation to see how citizens and institutions are serving their communities. In Philadelphia, we hear why the oldest opera house in the U.S. is dramatically lowering its prices to boost its bottom line. And in New Orleans, we celebrate 50 years of the Superdome, whose legacy is deeply intertwined with the Big Easy's pain and glory. But we begin in Los Angeles, where citizens are still reeling from the devastating January wildfires that destroyed more than 10,000 homes. Mark Strassman speaks with one homeowner whose destroyed, underinsured property is just one example of a larger national insurance crisis.
That's the living room, dining room, kitchen.
Virtually everything Robert Covarrubias owned has settled into heaps of ash.
That's a refrigerator.
His family of 6 has lived in Altadena for 10 years. Their American dream had 4 bedrooms, 4 baths, 2,400 square feet.
From 3 miles, you could see the flames coming our way.
LA's Eaton fire swept through their neighborhood.
It's going to be tough for us to make an inventory of everything we lost, right?
Covarrubias, an IT executive, hopes Alex Traslavina can help. He's an independent insurance adjuster fire victims hire to negotiate with insurance companies. We listened as Traslavina delivered bad news.
You're underinsured when it comes to the policy, and there's clearly not going to be enough to make you whole again.
That's true even though Covarrubias' homeowner's policy covers more than $1 million in losses.
Based off your numbers, it's anywhere between, $500 to $1 million short.
He's staring at a second disaster, a financial one.
What are you going to do?
I don't know yet.
It's devastating. It hurts.
Traslavina drove us through scarred and scared Altadena neighborhoods. Scared, wondering how they'll ever afford to rebuild.
The cost to rebuild, the materials outpacing the policies.
So the idea that people are going to be made whole in many cases is a pipe dream.
I don't know how families are going to be able to do it.
For some victims, the loss is both total and totally out of pocket. Nationally, 12% of Americans have no home insurance. With premiums soaring, they drop their coverage and roll the dice. And in a disaster like this, lost big.
I don't think most Americans understand that they're underinsured. I think most Americans see insurance as something they have to do.
Jeremy Porter studies property values after natural disasters. Banks and insurance agencies rely on his data. Take Colorado's Marshall Fire in 2021, a roughly $2 billion disaster. An estimated 3/4 of victims discovered they were underinsured.
If your home is completely destroyed, it's very difficult for most insurance policies to cover the complete rebuild of a property. So there's the second layer of kind of re-victimization.
That's where Robert Covarrubias now finds himself. His savings now compete with $1 million in uninsured losses. Are you determined to rebuild?
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah. The property is worth it. The place is worth it.
It's his assurance to his family. His insurance makes that more complicated.
We continue examining the fallout from the LA fires. As residents start to rebuild, many are worried that President Trump's immigration crackdown could worsen an already alarming shortage of construction workers. Here again is Mark Strassman.
On this street in North Pasadena, we ran into about a dozen workers volunteering to clear debris, potential kindling just 2 miles from the Eaton Fire's burn scar. Many of these workers are here illegally. Good. Bernardo Osorio is their crew boss. He migrated from Mexico 36 years ago and in 2021 became a U.S. citizen.
From every single people, they're afraid.
What are they afraid of?
Deportations. People like to work. They want to work. They want better lives as well.
And there's lots of work to be done.
We can do it without them. We cannot build America without them.
These are the hands that will rebuild Los Angeles.
We found many of those same workers protesting, This is a rally of migrant day laborers. They're critical to the rebuilding of Los Angeles, but worried they won't get that chance because of the Trump administration's aggressive stance toward deporting anyone without legal status.
We will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back to the places from which they came.
In California, 41% of construction workers are immigrants, many of them staying here without legal documents. Under the Trump administration's immigration crackdown, deportation officers can remove most immigrants who are here illegally, even targeting refugee programs and birthright citizenship.
They learn the trade. You cannot just bring new people, and train them. It's going to take years. So, who's going to do it?
Dan Gatsby founded the Los Angeles Builders Association, a trade group for the local construction industry.
Is it realistic that Los Angeles could rebuild what's been lost without immigrant labor?
It's going to be very difficult. We already have big shortage of home in Los Angeles. With this on top of it, good luck.
Gatsby estimates rebuilding Los Angeles could take 20 years and maybe twice as long without the help of immigrant construction labor.
We are essential workers, essential people for the community.
Just like rescuing LA from the flames, rebuilding it will take every available hand.
Coming up, how one group is working to reduce gun violence in one of the nation's largest cities. This is Eye on America. Welcome back. Chicago has one of the highest homicide rates in the United States. There were nearly 3,000 victims of gun violence in the city last year. Dr. Celine Gounder looks into support groups and intervention programs intended to break the cycle of violence in the Windy City.
Inside the UCAN Center in one of Chicago's most violent neighborhoods.
It's a war zone now, but it's our reality.
There's calm and the promise of peace.
Raise your hands. How many of you have lost somebody to gun violence or yourself been involved in gun violence?
Women at high risk for gun violence come here 4 days a week for a year to learn ways to cope with trauma, anger, and grief, and get coaching in the life skills that can put them on a different path.
Is violence in the community contagious?
Yes, very contagious.
Women like 21-year-old Kayla Medina. She's already lost her sister and boyfriend in shootings.
Have you ever found yourself in the crossfire?
Yes, a million times. Every day I walk out the door, there's always something happening. It's always some gunshots.
While men make up the majority of people shot or shooting, the number of women here involved is rising.
Last year, we had about 90 women killed from gun violence, and nearly 500 women were shot.
Krista Hamilton from UCAN developed the program.
If all they know is the west side of Chicago, then they have no vision to think outside of this community. It's just very important to show them an exit.
Shiro is part of an anti-violence approach called community violence intervention, designed to stop crime and violence before they happen. Trained specialists establish relationships with people at the highest risk of being victims or perpetrators of violence. They provide support and often respond to crime scenes, working to de-escalate tensions.
The police cannot do this alone. This is a societal issue. I don't want to go this alone. I don't want my officers to go this alone.
In Chicago, $300 million has been pledged for intervention programs in underserved and disinvested communities.
Violence is an outward expression of a deep-rooted problem. It might be housing. It might be education. It might be mental health.
Chico Tillman from the University of Chicago's Crime Lab has studied the cost of crime and the return on investments in intervention.
What's been shown in terms of the cost effectiveness?
When a homicide takes place, there's an investigation. The case goes to court. The case gets prosecuted. Incarceration if they're found guilty. All the medical bills, it costs society as a whole anywhere from $1.4 million to $2.5 million every time somebody is shot.
And that's the reason why I love that we come here together as a sisterhood, because we each share a story.
For the Shiros, community is the key and the chance to see a new way forward.
We head now to Philadelphia, where the nation's oldest opera house is opening its doors to welcome younger, more diverse audiences. Scott McFarland learns how the theater is making the art form more relevant and accessible.
In the nation's oldest opera house, seats for this performance cost less than a movie ticket. Opera Philadelphia is launching a pick-your-price model with tickets starting at just $11 as they try to lure more diverse and younger audiences.
Elitism has for too long been associated with opera.
If it's your first time, will you make some noise for me?
Anthony Costanzo, a legendary vocalist, is the new Opera Philadelphia director.
Most people don't like the opera. We have to be honest about the fact that our culture has no relationship to opera in general. Before Pick Your Price launched, only 30% of our opera houses full for the entire season. To our entire season being almost sold out, the whole run, we sold over 10,000 tickets in just 3.5 weeks.
Though the biggest indicator of success, Costanzo says 68% of those ticket sales were by first-time opera goers, like Desi Miles.
I expect to be mind blown.
Miles, a Philly native, enjoys pop, jazz, and classical music and is an aspiring opera aficionado.
Just knowing that I got a great deal, great seats, a great show for $11 makes me excited.
Though she admits it was difficult to convince a friend to join in on her Friday night plans.
It took me a week to find somebody else to take on this ticket. So I was kind of just okay with going
Because
along.
they don't understand it, or they just think they won't like it?
I think it's a little bit of both.
To win over the new audience, the Opera House is featuring a show that's quite at home in this battleground election state. Composer Missy Mazzoli's feature, The Listeners, about the impact of charismatic leaders and how they corral people who seek a group or a place to belong.
Whatever side of the political spectrum you're on, we're lost a sort of sense of community as a nation and as individuals. So that's at the core of this opera. I'm wanting to explore that, not from any particular perspective, showing the good and the bad of being part of an insular, extreme community.
This production is a homecoming for Mazzoli, who grew up in the suburbs outside Philadelphia. She hopes the pricing model and an opera in English will be the perfect duet to make opera more accessible.
My job as a composer is to make this understandable and make this work and make this moving for people coming from any sort of musical background.
And now in Philadelphia, the highest barriers to entry, cost, and intimidation are coming down.
You will be welcomed whether you are glamorous and dressed up in your best outfit or whether you came in your jeans and your flip-flops. And we want everybody to feel welcome. That's the fun of it.
Ahead, how the New Orleans Superdome became a symbol of strength and resilience for the Crescent City. That story is next. We close our show inside one of the oldest stadiums in the NFL. The New Orleans Superdome has hosted 8 Super Bowl games, more than any other arena. But the venue's identity extends beyond football. It's become a key pillar to the city's heritage and identity. I took a tour of the iconic dome, currently celebrating its 50th year in operation, to learn more about its rich and complicated history.
For half a century, it's hosted presidential conventions, star-studded concerts, Mardi Gras balls, and more Super Bowls than any other venue. And no wonder. It's the Superdome.
We have 3 of these grand atrium lobbies now.
Jazzed up to the tune of a $500 million renovation.
What made this renovation very complicated is it had to be done over 4 NFL seasons. The concourses are probably twice as wide as they were before.
Doug Thornton has run the Superdome for nearly 30 years. His company manages 6 other NFL stadiums across the country, but none with the impact of this one.
It literally put New Orleans on the map immediately when it was built as a sports destination and a convention destination. And all the hotels, the leisure travel that we have today that has been created was a result of this building being placed in the location that it is today.
Would you say from its start, the Superdome saved downtown New Orleans?
Oh, absolutely. There's no question about it.
Clancy Dubose was a cub reporter for the Times-Picayune when ground broke on the $165 million project in 1971.
Back then, this was all scrappy, crappy railroad yards, probably stock yards, but all of these buildings, other than City Hall, every tall building you see would not be here without the Superdome.
Transforming the landscape of a racially divided town dependent on the oil and gas industry was the brainchild of Saints owner Dave Dixon and Louisiana Governor John McKithen.
He said, we're going to do this, and he put his political capital on the line and got it done.
Wow.
He apparently, the story goes, went over to Houston and went inside the Astrodome, and well, they were calling it the eighth wonder of the world. So when he decided to get behind the Superdome, he says, I'm going to be able to put that little Astrodome inside of this one. This was going to be a super dome.
And the name stuck. It opened as the largest indoor stadium in the world, priming the pump for economic growth and opportunity. Entrepreneur Don Hubbard worked to make both available to the whole community.
At 10 cents a share, you could buy shares and stocks into the Dome Stadium operation, which was Superdome Services, called SSI.
Superdome Services hoped for a stake in the construction process, but when the state offered them a contract,
Well, then they asked the question, can you sweep? Can we sweep? Here we go.
their offer staff and manage every service in the building, with the exception of the lucrative concessions. SSI directly employed 1,400 people across the racial spectrum, generating business for thousands more in a city with a 70% Black population. So basically, they said, oh, you can have all of this,
Yeah,
but you got to be able to handle it.
you got to be able to do it.
And you did the job?
Not only did we do the job, we do the job in spite of the ones who did not want us to be successful.
Within 5 years, the state canceled the contract, claiming mismanagement. SSI sued and was awarded an undisclosed settlement. But Hubbard returned in 1978, promoting one of the biggest gets in Superdome history, the rematch between Muhammad Ali and Leon Spinks.
I was asked to put up the deposit on a date for the fight, and then the company said I had 72 hours to raise the rest of the money, or I would lose the deposit.
Did that settlement help with that deposit?
Yes. Yes.
What did the city lose by not having greater participation in what you describe as this economic opportunity that the Superdome was?
An opportunity to bring people to the table who had no hopes of finding nothing else to do.
Hello. In 2005, the Superdome would get its chance to serve in a way no one could have imagined, acting as a shelter of last resort during Hurricane Katrina.
I'm very grateful for this Superdome because without it, I don't know where we would have went.
Few felt the city could recover, let alone rebuild the severely damaged stadium. Not to mention, keeping a team whose owner threatened to take it elsewhere.
Suddenly there was fear, there was anxiety, there was depression. It was frightening.
Many credit then Commissioner Paul Tagliabue for refusing to allow the franchise to move.
And I put Roger Goodell in the same mix with Paul Tagliabue. They helped fund and jumpstart the construction, but most importantly, they understood what it meant to put the full force of the NFL behind, the rebuilding effort and bring the Saints back.
They're never leaving. Ever.
Period.
No, they just flat out, it ain't happening.
Former Mayor Mitch Landrieu was the lieutenant governor when the Superdome was reborn.
That first game in this building was the most electric experience that I have ever had in my life. That was the night that New Orleans knew that we were going to be okay. I mean, we really felt it at that time. I'm actually going to start crying.
I know.
Because I was like,
feeling
it was just it was so cathartic.
In your 30 years in government, have you seen anything bring people together like a Saints game?
I guess it's like this in other cities, but I can tell you, this is the soul of the city.
For more stories like these and live coverage of breaking news, stream us right here on CBS News 24/7. I'm Michelle Miller. Thank you for watching Eye on America.